liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you have in front of you the minutes for the meeting of May 1st. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Brown?
Aye.
Rob Cruz?
Aye.
Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Jess?
Aye.
Melissa Smith?
Aye. Next in front of you, we have the agenda. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Chris Brown?
Aye.
Rob Cruz?
Aye.
Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Jess?
Aye.
Melissa Smith?
Aye. Next up, we have special presentation, but they didn't make it yet, did they?
They're on the road,
Okay.
I know that.
They are in the parking lot.
They're gonna be all right now.
Okay.
with him?
Oh, it's my umbrella.
Oh.
Last time they hear it was raining pretty bad.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're bringing it back.
The sunshine was just so
Yeah,
out of
they
the
wouldn't know.
ordinary.
See, I told them the other day, it wasn't that I was so sweet that I was gonna melt if I got wet, it was because I was the Wicked Witch of the West, so I didn't care.
Are they gonna need a minute to set up? Are they?
They might need a minute to set up here, I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, we can take a recess for 3 or 4 minutes while that happens, if anybody wants to get a cup of coffee.
I just don't know how people drink coffee at night. I would be awake all night long.
Decaf?
Oh, wait, why didn't drink it yet? You're up. You don't have to answer my text.
Do what?
You don't have to answer my text.
Oh. I got it right here. Yep.
Yes. Certainly, I can do that. Do we know how many people signed up? Good evening. Thanks for being a little bit late because I got to get a cup of coffee.
I'm very sorry.
Please don't be.
My soccer coach taught me early is on time and on time is late. So apparently I'm like super late because I'm actually late.
I
but
try to go by that and it never seems to work for me, so.
It sounds really good in concept, right? Well, appreciate you guys taking some time to meet with us today. We are presenting kind of final project details of the LED lighting and district support center HVAC project. We'll talk about, we kind of had to make some changes kind of late in the project development for some of the other work at the high school, the chiller, and then the controls for this building, which we're not prepared to discuss at this point. We have some kind of initial feedback and some information to share, but we'll be coming back to you probably about a month from now with that as a potential amendment to this initial contract that we're presenting to you today. So put together a short slideshow here to kind of go through some of the details. I know some of you are more familiar with the project kind of as we've developed it up to this point. I want to start by highlighting kind of the project goals, what this particular portion of the project is trying to address. I think the initial goal is really pretty clearly defined to reduce annual energy and maintenance operational costs for the district. And create a self-funding project, a project that at the end of the day, it pays for itself through a combination of energy and maintenance savings guaranteed to the district. You guys spend about $400,000 a year right now currently between all of the facilities, not including the middle school. That's the one we haven't really taken a look up to this point, but and that is just the combination of electricity and gas. So what we were able to provide is a contract that will include an energy savings component to it that saves a pretty good chunk of your existing energy savings. About 20% of the cost associated with that 400,000 is directly allocated to the lighting in those facilities. So anything we can do to reduce the operational costs on that lighting takes a pretty good hit out of the overall budget. The existing district support center rooftop units, they're kind of at the end of their functional life. You can see on there, the average of those is 22 and a half years old. ASHRAE rates that type of equipment at about a 15-year life expectancy. I would say we often see them last more than 15 years. It's just once you get to 15, it kind of starts to make sense to start evaluating the replacement of that equipment without having to spend a significant amount on maintenance and keeping those systems afloat. There's currently one air-cooled chiller at the high school that has passed its useful life. It's very, very inefficient and it needs to be addressed. And then, as I mentioned, kind of the idea of this project is to pay for the cost of the project with the utility savings that we're guaranteeing as part of this project. Any questions about that goal? Pretty self-explanatory. Next one, a little bit more human-centric than the first one. The first one's kind of just, it keeps the bean counters happy, right? Next one is improve HVAC system performance, comfort, and the indoor air quality of the systems that we're touching. District Sports Center was converted, as many of you probably know, from a grocery store before they built the one across the street. When they initially set this up, there were some decisions that kind of had us scratching our heads a little bit. You guys share a unit with Rob's office as well as Bev's area and kind of some other ancillary spaces. It's kind of strange. Usually these kind of common larger gathering spaces are off on their separate system type or at least zoned that way. That's not currently how it's set up. The good news is relatively efficiently we can make some modifications to the systems through the ductwork and do some zoning to accommodate a little bit better indoor air quality and environment for both this, Rob, Bev, and the front office staff. I think Rena's office is pretty bad. So, let's see. Some of the existing features of kind of modern equipment were kind of skipped out on those units. They're kind of a more light commercial standard efficiency type of unit. What we're proposing has some of the more a few more boxes checked. We're adding economizers, which can bring in kind of some free both heating and cooling to the space. Variable speed fan technology, so it can modulate the fan and output the amount of air that's necessary at any given time. And then support a little bit more as far as zoning. If Rob needs heating and for some reason adjacent office needs cooling, this system will have the ability to do that versus right now, everything gets what everything gets. Any questions about that? Awesome. So to kind of highlight some of the scope, starting with the district-wide LED lighting project, the goal is to retrofit and replace all of the existing lighting with LED technology. It's about 70% more efficient than the existing fluorescent technology, exception being the middle school. It's already LED, so we're not doing anything there. Most of the classrooms will get new fixtures and or retrofit kits, so it will aesthetically it will be a new piece of equipment. It will remove all of the ballasts that you have currently. Those are kind of a common failure point. There is a very cost-cutting measure that you can retain existing ballasts and do LED. You lose out on a lot of the savings, and then you still have the headaches of dealing with ballasts. So we do not. That's not our preferred mode of handling LEDs. All the classrooms, the middle school currently has kind of a dual level zoning capability where you can, kind of like in here, we just shut off those lights, but you can keep the lights where the students are on. So the middle school has that. We're going to be converting all of the classrooms throughout the entire district to accommodate that same level of control for the teachers, which in conversations we've had throughout the audit process, they're definitely excited to get that technology in their space. Kind of a maintenance concern is the U tubes. They're actually in the shape of a U. The 2-footers and the 3-footers, those are very kind of uncommon, very small use cases, like trophy cases, some kind of weird things. They'll still maintain those, but you actually have a decent amount of those. You can even see in that picture right there, that's a 2x2 troffer, I believe in Baker maybe. And those lamps are, a 2-foot lamp is not half the cost of a 4-foot lamp. It's actually the other way around. A 2-foot LED tube is way more expensive than a 4-foot tube. So we're trying to convert everything to one common tube size, and accommodating the maintenance concern of trying to have everything be as uniform as possible. All the kitchens, those lights, they go bad, if you would believe, a lot faster than most other places. You've got all that kind of, grease in the air, things like that, food service. So we're gonna replace those with new food grade fixtures. The gymnasiums will receive new high bay LEDs, so all the gyms will be a lot brighter than they are currently. A little bit of fancy kind of stuff that we wanted to implement on this project was the high school gymnasium will accommodate some scene lighting. So you'll be able to dim the seating around the court surface itself. And then we've got a little demo video here on the next slide of some of the technology that we're going to be implementing in that space as well. And then the parking lot, that's a drone photo I took a couple weeks ago, the top right corner. The problem with cameras is they actually do some level of, I'm not a photographer, I need to get better at trying to get the raw image of it not brightened up. That's the best one I could find, but a lot of other ones of that parking lot in particular made it look way brighter than it actually is. I would be really impressed if anybody could go up to that screen and pinpoint where my car is parked. I tried to park in the darkest area of every single parking lot, and you can't see my car, and it would take me a while to even find it. So what you see in the bottom right-hand corner there, that's a photometric layout of the new LED lighting for that particular parking lot. You can kind of see a rendering of what it would look like. Yes, it looks darker in the middle, but it's way brighter across. It's much more uniform than the current layout there. And thanks to the city, they are actually going to be installing some new LEDs on the city-owned pole lights that surround those facilities. So we have to purchase those lights, but the city's actually going to be installing those free of charge to the district. So we appreciate their cooperation and assistance with trying to provide safer, better parking lot lighting for the district. Any questions on that before I move on to this video that I just clicked forward? So. All right. There is sound, but I don't really know. There's no sound. We're just going to go without sound. This is Cameron Indoor, so obviously pretty high-end stadium. This is a little flavor of what we're looking to do in the high school gymnasium. They went pretty nuts with their system, but some of the same abilities as far as getting on your phone, changing the app settings, highlighting the home team bench to announce the starting lineup, or whatever you want to do for assemblies. It's got some pretty cool technology associated with the controls and then the lighting itself. There's some super cool hype music to this that I wish was playing right now, but
You can sing.
say it.
You can sing.
Pledge allegiance. Yeah.
I think it's probably better because we can all imagine different.
Yeah, what's playing in your head? I've got Billy Joel in my. Anybody?
No,
No?
not with those lights. It was more.
All right, yay! That's kind of the hype video with no sound, but. Oh yes, thank you. Any questions on the LED lighting portion of the project? No? Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to Colton to kind of discuss the rooftop units here in this facility.
So currently the facility has 6 rooftop units that condition the space. There's actually one really old abandoned one that is just kind of left unused. The 6 that are working, that condition the whole building. The scope of this project is to replace 4 of them. 2 of those still serve kind of the back part of the building. Second floor, that mezzanine storage area, and then the warehouse storage space. Those are pretty simple, just direct replacements for new equipment that's more energy efficient, but not a lot of changes in the way that they'll operate. The front quarter of the building, this side, the office space over here in the center, and then those front offices, as Aaron was mentioning, are all served by 2 other units. And the way that they were installed, the zoning just is going to lead to some comfort problems, which is what you have. And so this project is going to remedy that by taking this great big space off and putting it on its own dedicated unit. So one of the new rooftop pieces of equipment up there will be just serving this room. That'll save energy just because you can just have this space kind of turned off during the day when it's not in use. And just on demand, you can turn it on and condition the space. And then the rest of all the other office space that's currently split up between the two it's going to be consolidated onto one larger rooftop unit. And this rooftop unit is going to be much more efficient, can vary the speed of the fans, vary the temperature output a lot more precisely. And then in pretty much each office will have its own what's called a VAV box. It's just hidden up in the ductwork. That kind of controls the temperature that's getting supplied directly to that one room. So pretty much every room or office on this part of the building will have their own thermostat and be able to control their temperature. I have to warn you that the rest of the building, still about 30% of the building, is still kind of on the older system, and that we're not, it has newer rooftop units, but when those were replaced, they didn't change the type or the zoning or anything. So we're not able really to improve comfort like over in the IT section and like that
West
bullpen,
cube, yeah.
the bullpen kind of cubicle area over there. But
When the time comes to replace those, though, the same things that we're doing here could be done there. We just think it's a little bit too early to be recommending that at this time.
you should get the full life out of that equipment that's not that old, that serves the rest of the building. And yeah, each of these, all these units have, are much higher efficiency, just kind of up to the standard, the modern code requirements of high efficiency HVAC equipment.
You can kind of see there on the right-hand side, it doesn't really show up very well, but that is the existing zoning right there. So you can see there's like 3 or 4 rooms coming off of one main duct. And then it's even harder to see, but the bottom one, you can see there's individual ducts coming off those with a VAV box in each space that has its own individual temperature control. So we do have full-blown plans set that if anybody wants to look through, they're more than welcome to. That is literally a tiny snippet that is probably 1/1000th of the total drawing package. But I was hoping it was gonna kind of show what we're doing, but it really doesn't. So sorry about that.
It's hard to tell on black and white plans, but
Yeah.
when contractors are on site, that's what we need is black and white plans. And then this, another part of the scope that we're still working on, this one turned out to be a little more complicated than we originally anticipated. We thought, oh, you're, replacing one chiller, just direct replacement, put a new one down. But the chiller that needs to be replaced is nestled in between the building, electrical transformer, and the newer chiller. And so you gotta pick that one out and try to fit a new one in there. But the problem is chillers are getting bigger because they're more efficiency, they're adding more equipment to them. The volume of space that the refrigerant needs to take up is just getting bigger. And so the new chiller that we want to replace it with is about 10 feet longer. Well, it's not going to fit in between the building and the transformer anymore. So now
Way too easy.
Now we got to pick up both those chillers, rotate them 90 degrees, re-pour all the concrete pads, redo all the electrical connections and the chilled water lines that the chillers are connected to before they go into the building. And so you can see that on this drawing. The kind of the upper middle drawing is their current configuration, and then the lower on the lower right is the way that they'll be configured after. We did have some contractors come in, both electrical and mechanical contractors, kind of look at it and kind of talk through the different options that are available here. And we've settled on this is really the best approach for fixing this problem you have long term, because if we were just to swap, we considered taking that newer chiller and putting it in because it would fit there in between the transformer and the building. But then 7 years from now, when you got to replace that chiller, you're going to be facing the same problem. And so it makes sense just to rotate them both now, and then you're not constrained. You might just have to give up, one of the handicapped parking spaces that is right there next to those chillers to make this work. So we'll look at, we still have to look at code requirements, maybe if we've got to add a handicapped parking space somewhere else around the building to satisfy it. So this is just taking us kind of some time to work through, talk to contractors and figure this all out. We're almost there, we're about ready to go out to bid, and as Aaron said, we should have pricing on that and be ready to come and present that to you within about a month.
Yeah, we apologize, we can't present that today. I will say, we kind of had some discussion of whether to wait for the whole package to come back, but the lead time on the small rooftop units for this building, you'd think 3 years for, whatever we are now into COVID, that the lead time issue would be fixing itself. It continually is getting worse, and I can't explain it. It's the smaller packaged rooftop units that are being bought in literally the thousands, if not more than that at this point. So the larger custom equipment, like at Logan County, we had a bunch of small ones, and then we had the large custom as big as a Mack truck. Those Mack truck size ones came within a couple months. The single zone, very similar to what you have, those are like a 40-week lead time. It's ridiculous.
So we wanted to get ahead of the lead time, and then also, in order to do the lighting work this summer, which is, it really needs to be done during the summer because it's more invasive and all throughout all the school buildings. We needed to get under contract and begin to mobilize to do that lighting work this summer. So we didn't want to wait, hold up the rest of the project just for these last couple pieces. One of the other things that we're still working through is just the control system for this building. So obviously, all the new equipment that we put in as part of the renovation project, it will have new controllers that tie into the computer system that allows your maintenance staff to like monitor it and control it. But then they would like, the rest of the building just kind of modernized as well. It's still on some old control equipment, and we're trying to, they're trying to standardize across all of the school buildings, across the whole district, just to this newer type of hardware. And then the last one that we're still working through, which is I think kind of a late request, right? Is the
Yeah,
theater light in the high school?
So our typical projects do not include theatrical lighting. That's a very custom solution. It's not just product that anybody can go and install. So we got requested kind of in the 11th hour to investigate and see what that would cost. And I think Nick, I've been talking to Nick, trying to figure out exactly what they would like to see, and I wanted to give him a couple minutes just to kind of share with you the investigation kind of level that we've gone through at this point. We have received some initial proposals, nothing finalized yet, but wanted to see if that was something that you would like to potentially include in this project or do as kind of a separate item. So I want to just give him a couple minutes to just kind of share what the goals of that project would be.
I'll be pretty brief. Hi, I'm Andrew Mayer. I work at Fort Worth High School. I'm the stage manager, so I work with a lot of groups that come in and use the space, as well as our own school district that comes and has concerts or events. I'm also kind of here to represent Morgan Larson. She's ironically at rehearsals tonight on that very stage. And so she and I have noticed that there's a couple small issues. We've had some strange connection issues, and we started investigating. And for us, definitely the lighting is one of the things that we would love to have improved. So we heard that the LED thing was on its way. We thought, hey, we might be able to take advantage of this as well. Morgan's been great to help me learn more about lighting and figure out what might work. So we actually managed to have a company come out and take a quick look and just see what we had and what it looks like. And so we have kind of begun to get some information and some ideas from companies. So I know this is something we'd love to have done, so we can better meet the needs of performances and events in our auditorium.
I did go back and look because I was not super familiar with that system. I believe the last time that was addressed was in 2002. I don't know if you know for sure. That's the last set of plans that I could find that included any changes to that portion of the building. So take it for what it's worth, but those lights could be about 20 years old, which is kind of the expectancy of that type of equipment. We're talking about the control boards, the actual relay circuits themselves, like basically not just I can retrofit that fixture pretty simple. Take down the fixture, put in some new tube stones, put in wire. Theatrical lighting is much more custom tailored. It's more product oriented, and there's a lot of commissioning on the controls to make everything function properly. Everything's digital now, obviously. The days of like analog, actually this doing the dimming, now you can get on a phone and do the same thing. So it is relatively expensive compared to building lighting. And we are kind of on the threshold and the cusp of a self-funding project. So I did want to bring him in to kind of introduce the idea of that. We've received 3 kind of initial proposals currently. I think they're ranging from, I think 120 was the lowest we got, so 130.
I believe so. The one that we were kind of most excited about was right at 138,000. And so that's something that had a lot of the things we were super excited about. On that, we asked for a couple of items just for them to put one on so we could kind of see some pricing. We have some spotlights that we were curious about those going to LEDs or not. They have the capability to do some things with some moving LEDs. At the moment, if we want to move any lights in our auditorium, we have to actually like get on a lift and shut off the fire alarm or crawl up into the ceiling. So we were hoping to be able to customize like moving lights to be able to like actually light up areas that we don't always just have dedicated lighting to. So that price would definitely change depending on what we might be able to do, but we thought we'd at least ask and see what prices look like. So
Awesome. Well, nice to meet you.
thanks.
We've talked on the phone. That's about the extent. So now getting into kind of the project financials. So the project as it sits today, not the chiller and not the controls for this building. Project cost of just literally a tick shy of $2.6 million. We work with a local utility company, Fort Morgan Electric and Gas, and they are offering a utility incentive. The maximum allowed by their program, unfortunately, you qualify for about $20-something thousand, but their program only allows you to take the per building max on 4 facilities. Unfortunately, you have more facilities than that, so that's $2,500 per facility, so $10,000. We've calculated the energy savings of right around $75,000. That's direct energy that you will not be sending a bill to your utility for that anymore, and you will be sending that bill, as this graphic kind of indicates. You've got your total pool that you're spending on utilities currently. We have identified some potential to reduce that pool. That pool of money will then be used as a payment to reduce, to not add a debt service to the district's budget. And then it turns into this awesome little piggy bank dude on the right-hand side of gravy once the project is paid for. So it really is a great mechanism to get work done. We're fortunate to have a pretty solid program here in Colorado that allows, per the statute, for you guys to take advantage of financing the project without taking on a debt service at the district level. Cost weighted average of the equipment that we're installing is right about 20 years. The project cash flows positive. Work with Tony on kind of several different scenarios as far as how you might structure the loan on that. And it becomes cash flow positive in about year 15 to year 17, depending on how long you finance the project. So you'll basically get between 3 to 5 years of that gravy at the end of the equipment life. That's if you were to replace all these systems at the 20-year mark, which some of them should last significantly longer than that. Any questions on the project as it sits?
What is the benefit to doing the theater lights now versus not doing the theater? Is there any difference?
There's energy savings performance contracting, as well as design build, turnkey project delivery, okay, in the state of Colorado allows you to allocate the savings to pay your debt service amount without taking on a loan that has to be approved by the community, Tabor, right? So if we're able to fit the cost of that into this project, it would allow you to not have to pay for it upfront in cash.
Okay,
I say if, because we have to kind of work
Sure.
that out to make sure it does. If it doesn't, then basically you start the iterative game to figure out, well, how little can we put down now to include that lighting and still have it meet the project cash flow positive requirement.
So in our plan was to take the original 600,000 that we had set aside for this building, that we were gonna pay out of general fund,
That's right.
to use as the down payment on this project.
I'm just, in my head, I'm just thinking that the theater lights, I mean, this is part of the Glenn Miller Auditorium, which is important to this community, so I mean, if it didn't work, I would think we could ask community for funding for that, for the lights. I mean, it could be
totally
very
can.
separate thing.
Yeah, it is a separate thing. We just wanted to bring it as a potential that it could fit within the structure of this project. I will tell you, it's probably gonna be a stretch, because the project does have to cash flow in year one. Adding even $140,000 to the total project budget, it's not gonna have significant quantifiable energy savings. Yes, they're more efficient, but it operates relatively minimal amount of hours in a year compared to lighting in a classroom. But we realize it's utilized by the community, so if you wanna get it done, we can do it. You know, we're flexible, basically. You tell us what you want us to do. Which
Gotcha.
is a perfect segue into the amendment. We figured you guys would at least want to have an idea of what that amendment contract is gonna add to the project. This does include the theatrical lighting, of which I think when I put this together, I had not received that proposal. I've received two others. I think one was 150 and one was 200,000. So I think the low end of that range includes about 150,000 in lighting. I think the top one maybe closer to 200,000. So if we were to pull that out, we're still looking at, for the high school chiller, there's no way to gravy sugarcoat it. It's kind of a waste, but we have to rotate those chillers, which there is a cost associated with demoing those pads, rotating the equipment. It's a necessary evil though, because as Colton said, the easy way would be just swap them, but then you're gonna have a problem in 7 years, and we didn't really fix anything. And we spent money to install another piece of equipment, so we wouldn't do that. We're estimating the amendment for the chiller replacement, all the rotation and everything associated with that, and then the controls for this building is around that 350 to 450,000, maybe 5. I don't remember honestly what number I put it in the top there. I should have put it out separate, but and it does have an additional 5 to 10,000 in energy savings, and then about 10 to 20,000 in annual maintenance savings. And I will say, this industry, those maintenance savings, we like to be realistic. A lot of people will just say, you're gonna save $80,000 a year on your maintenance savings. We have verified these with Mark and Mike to verify that they think this is an actual savings potential, because the maintenance savings is stipulated. There's no way to track the maintenance cost savings over a 15 or 20-year period. The energy savings is gonna be tracked via option A, which is we will actually take measurements of all of the lighting when we do the retrofit of the pre-wattage used in a room and the post-wattage used in a room, and then we report that back to you, and that's what verifies the actual savings. So there is, yes, some ambiguity to the maintenance savings. We think they're conservative. The energy savings is directly what we've calculated it to be. So,
Stipulated just means both parties agree to it, so you just have to we come to a negotiated agreement about, you'll save this much in your maintenance costs, but the energy savings are based on engineered, calculations and modeling and stuff.
Now, we did talk the other day about the first 3 years is guaranteed. Is that still part of the?
minimum, Colorado requires a minimum of 3-year guarantee. We are still working with the lending agent to try to figure out how that all fits into this contractually. We are open to a longer term if necessary. It doesn't cost you anything extra because the measurement happens regardless. So if in year one, if our measurement, if we're $5,000 less than the 75 we told you we were gonna save, if we get to 70,000, we would owe you a check for 5,000 times whatever the duration of that guarantee period is. So you will save that, whether it's on your utility bill or out of my pocket. And I will tell you, I don't like paying for things out of my pocket. So we will make sure that you get your energy savings. They are engineered at the end of the day, we call them.
Make him pay for this.
Yeah, literally. We notice it says calculated versus the maintenance says estimated. It is calculated. We have in the contract, there are the specific equations of how we calculate that energy savings. And we realize that you will get it. I have only handed one check ever in my 10-year career. And I will tell you, the guys and gals that I handed that to, like the Looney Tunes where your like eyeballs kind of like pop out of your head, that like actually happened because no one does that. Usually these contracts are written very slanted towards, oh, we have this ability to get out of this in some way, shape, or form. Oh, you changed the thermostat up 1 degree, so the whole contract's null and void. We think that's hocus pocus. So, yes, it's a good question. And then I just love my little question mark dude. He's so cool. That finishes the presentation. I'm Aaron. He's Colton. I think I kind of skipped over that, but you guys, I don't know, I've been here 4 or 5 times now, so figured you kind of know that stuff by now. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
This may be too preliminary, but at some point, will we kind of get like a timeline of when things are going to be started and ended in
Yes.
this project, so we
So-
can kind of track?
We have an idea of that now, based on feedback from contractors that we got with bidding. I think it's a little too early. In our contract, we will provide the detailed construction schedule like within 30 days of signing that contract, so it kind of depends, we can't actually get our subcontractors under contract until we have the contract
Sure.
review, and so then we can't really finalize the schedule, that's why it kind of takes that extra time. But generally, what we're looking at for implementation is LED lighting and the parking lot lighting kind of throughout the summer. Try to finish that up before school year begins, but if we can't, we will, we'll have to kind of carefully coordinate and deconflict, like when we're doing any remaining work with you starting a school year. Inevitably, that kind of stuff happens. It's a little unavoidable, but, and then the work here at the district support center, based on the lead time of those pieces of equipment, as Aaron mentioned, that's probably looking like October, November installation period. We have maybe explored with the contractor, maybe they can come in during the summer and do the work that we have to like take down your ceilings and change a bunch of duct work when not as many staff is gonna be in here, and then come back and put it on the roof. So we still need to kind of discuss the implications of that with you all. But that project won't be finished until, probably almost the end of the year. And then the chiller, based on the lead time of that chiller, when we think we can order it, it's gonna arrive kind of around this time next year. Of course, we don't wanna shut down your high school cooling before the school year's out, so we're probably gonna have to wait and do that install it next summer. Because we're gonna have to take the cooling system offline for a few weeks at the high school.
It used to be great because we'd sign these contracts and we'd literally get started like 2 weeks, 4 weeks away. And the amount of planning that has to go into these things now to make it as efficient for you all as possible and for our contractors, it's a testament to the construction team's kind of foresight. We do work in occupied buildings. The same work that we're doing in these couple spaces here, we did in the Logan County Justice Center during their hours of operation. So not to say that schools are easy, but you guys have this thing called summer break that makes it where contractors love to get in, get a lot of that work done when they're as unbothered as possible. So yes, there's a lot of logistics in the timing of when we order equipment and when we mobilize and all that. There's careful considerations for all of that. And that's kind of why we're here, is we gotta get these rooftop units set in time, and we need to get all the equipment ordered. So we're gonna do everything we can to get our bids. We're gonna give the contractors 2 weeks for the controls and the chiller, and then we'll be back having the same discussion about that, which will be structured as an amendment to the existing contract. So we don't have 2 contract numbers or anything. It's just basically a large change order to that contract with the additional savings as well. So unfortunately, unlike last time, we don't have like a contract done. We literally on the drive up here got the revisions from the district attorney. We do have some things that we need to change on our end. So we are asking for your approval of the contract provisional to those final edits being incorporated to that contract. Yeah.
The pricing won't change. Our savings numbers are pretty well dialed in. What we'll finalize that is kind of whatever the loan terms that we kind of get worked out with the financier that would work with the district on this. So those are some of the details we're still kind of ironing out in the contract. And then the attorney's review, I think we're pretty amenable to it. It's just, we just barely got it, so we're not quite ready to.
We've accepted
present it
all of
for
those
signature.
changes on every other contract thus far, so I don't think it'll be any different on this guy.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Colton.
Thank you. This is.
Can't wait to do a new thing.
So then can we go ahead and do it if we didn't do the table for it because it was already in
It's already on there.
the, yeah.
We can do it. It's just conditional.
Okay. Okay, now is the opportunity for any audience, public comments. All right, next up, we have board reports. Does anybody have a report? The only thing we want to mention is that Wednesday night at 6 PM, Matt Cook is coming to do legislative wrap-up here. So I assume we have other people from other districts coming here. And a light dinner will be served. We were supposed to sign up for that. I don't know if anyone else has besides. I did. Cool. So there will be at least 3 of us here. And you've already posted that, right? Sweet. Thank you. All right. Then next up, we have superintendent report, Mr. Sanders.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to fill you in. Tomorrow we have our best grant interview. It's going to be at 3 o'clock. There is myself, Tony, Bev, Mark, Michael possibly, and then Millie will also be on the other side answering questions. So we should know more about the rest of the project, and that's the other buildings with all their chillers and all their HVAC issues that they have going. And so hopefully we'll hear within the next 2 weeks whether we got awarded or not. And then if we didn't get awarded, we have a plan B as we've shown you, and we'll get started on that piece of it. So that's tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Questions on that?
Good luck.
Yes, it's about a $5 million ask from Best, I believe, roughly. So that'll be really great if we end up with it. I even hated to bring it here tonight, but we do have closing tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We actually got the final paperwork today. We owe closing costs, everything. We will be there at 4 o'clock tomorrow at 4:15, roughly after our best meeting, to close on Legion Field.
Sweet. I am not going to believe it until it is done.
I even hesitated to tell you, because I just wanted to say surprise, but we don't do surprises.
Text it when you're done.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take a picture of the sign.
There you go.
So, anyway, any questions on that one? Now, and then the end of the year picnic for the Making a Difference Award, you guys have been talking about back and forth, who's doing what. You're all welcome to come. If you'd like to speak, let us know. That way we can put a program together and have it ready to roll. I think lunch is at 11? 11, I think if you want to come and help out or do anything, get there relatively early.
You can eat too.
Oh, and eat, yes, you're going to eat.
What time did you say?
11.
11?
The meal's at 11 and then the program's at 12.
Yep, and it's over at the high school. So, and I know that you guys have talked about who's doing what so far, and we'll just keep figuring out what everybody's gonna do until then. So, any questions on that? And that is my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Assessment, Dr. Fresco.
My report is very short. You're going to be asked this evening to be approving the Fort Morgan High School graduating class of 2023. Currently 195 students strong, and the grad walk was really amazing. I was just talking to Clint, there were 150 grads that showed up to do the grad walk at all the schools. So it was 5 buses. I think last year, we only filled 3, 4. Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. So congrats to that class.
Wonderful. All right, next up, we have Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Miller.
Good evening. My report is equally short. I'm just excited to report that our property taxes have started depositing into Bank of Colorado. We'll be doing our first payroll out of there this week. And then when Penny gets back, we'll finish moving everything else over, and we're just so excited to work with them. They're just so wonderful when I walk in.
Good.
Yeah, it's been a great transition. It takes a long time, and I know people are like, how long can it take to change things? We just have a lot of things. Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
I'm good. It's always nice to have a good decision, huh?
Have not regretted it one bit.
Okay, next we have Human Resources Director, Dr. Childress.
Thank you. We're wrapping up open enrollment today. It went very smoothly. It tends to do that when we tell people, if you like what you got, you don't have to do anything, and that's essentially what we had for open enrollment. I think I had maybe 15 to 20 changes, people just making some small changes, but it was great to be out in schools, talking to folks, and by and large, very appreciative of the change to CBT, and people are appreciating that insurance piece. And then we also have some MOUs for you to consider tonight from MASAP and FMEA and ACP.
Okay, thank you. And that segues directly into discussion items A, 23-24 salary schedules and memos of understanding for ACP, FMEA, and MASAP. So any further discussion about that? Anybody have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, discussion item B is that contract with Millick Design Build for the Energy Savings Performance Contract Project. So that's not, is this the same contract he was just talking about that we're talking about with John?
Yeah, so he's wanting you to approve it tonight, and then as I can, if we wait 2 more weeks, so you have a decision. You can approve it tonight, conditional based upon the conversation tonight, adding the things in there, and then they can go ahead and get started and getting contractors rolling. Or you can wait until it's actually done, we can bring it back in the first meeting in June. That, the only thing that does is just hold off them and try to get the contractors, which then could push, just so we understand if that's okay to push the potential finish dates past the beginning of school, potentially by a couple of weeks. I don't know how it'll impact the schedule exactly. It's a pretty big project.
So the final draft will be reviewed by our attorney and by yourself prior to it going into fruition. So if the conditions are not met, it will be null and void and we'll be back at square one, right?
Yes. It has to be, it has to be acceptable to both parties, and that includes the attorney.
Rob, did I hear you say that our attorney has made some recommendations or changes? Did they also have some? Did I hear him say?
No, so basically what's happening
It's
with
just
this
us.
whole process
Okay.
is every contract they've ever given us,
Right.
we have reviewed it with John
Right.
Farrell, and then John Farrell sends back suggestions. So the first one had several suggestions, they incorporated all of them, didn't have any issues with it. So when they did the second one, they actually drew it up with John's language so that they didn't have as many changes. So actually, when I sent this one to him, he said, well, if they do it like they did the last one, we won't have many changes, this won't take long. And so, based on the email I read you earlier, there's not a ton of changes he's recommending, but there are some changes. It has to do with language around that first year cash positive, which you can't, on a $2.6 million project, you can't be cash positive in the first year. And I think that's a state requirement on those energy savings contracts, which seems kind of counterintuitive, because it takes a while to get that money back, because it's cash positive. And so he's making changes based on that information there.
Well, I'd make a motion, we approve the contract conditioned upon the final acceptance and recommendation from our attorney.
And I'll keep that in mind when we get to the action items.
Oh, that's not the next one, I'm sorry, my bad.
You're no problem.
Remember that.
I will. I will definitely read it.
Go ahead.
So discussion item C, policy GCAB, the administrative staff position, second reading. We now have in there those changes in red and the high school marked out. So is there any discussion, questions about the second reading of policy GCAB?
What does the supervising one sport per school year language refer to?
We're not going to allow anyone in an administrative position to do more than one sport because
Well, that's coaching, is it same as supervising? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, we should change it to coaching.
We can change it to coaching.
Well, we had a conversation about supervising, what if, and I think, for example, like
Yeah.
drama, things like that, it would be hard to do drama because you've got a fall and a spring, and I don't think that really fits in too well with the one limit, so, verbiage, I guess. So we can change it to coaching if you like.
Well, no, I was just clarifying that wasn't attending and supervising the event.
No, that's actually coaching.
Okay, all right, that's what I was trying to clarify.
So do we want to change the language?
We might
From
make it a little
supervisor?
more specific.
I think you made it.
I think so, yeah.
I'll make that change.
Thank you.
Do it,
Just clear.
shift F7, the thesaurus.
Okay, any other questions, comments about policy GCAB? All right, moving on to discussion item D, policies first reading. These are the EF policies, EF, E-1, policy EF-E-2, policy EFC, policy EFEA, policy EFEA-E. So, do we have any discussion about that? What are we doing?
Particularly on the school lunch one, there was a policy that was outdated, and I know we're going to all free lunch and breakfast next year, but when you do, you're still gonna have money left over that's gonna have to be owed to the district, and it still continues for this year. And so even when you apply for free and reduced lunch, you have to pay for that, and you're on the hook for that money until you actually get approved by the federal government. And so once you get the free and reduced approved, you have a backlog that you still have to pay. So this is trying to bring, I believe, this back into into line with what the current law is. Next year shouldn't really be an issue based on the free and reduced going across the entire district.
Okay, any other questions about that? All right, moving along to the consent agenda. You have in front of you the personnel action report. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Brown?
Aye.
Rob Cruz,
Aye.
Amy Grantham,
Aye.
Nancy Hopper,
Aye.
Katie Jess,
Aye.
Melissa Smith.
Aye. Next, we have action item A, the 2023-2024 salary schedules and memos of understanding for ACP, FMEA, and MASAP, which I know Dr. Childress has worked very hard on. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Brown,
Aye.
Rob Cruz,
Aye.
Amy Grantham,
Aye.
Nancy Hopper,
Aye.
Katie Jess,
Aye.
Melissa Smith.
Aye. Action item B, contract with Millig Design Build for the Energy Savings Performance Contract Project. What is the pleasure of the board? Rob?
Well, I move what I said.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Brown,
Aye.
Rob Cruz,
Aye.
Amy Grantham,
Aye.
Nancy Hopper,
Aye.
Katie Jess,
Aye.
Melissa Smith.
Aye. Action item C, graduating students of the class of 2023 for Fort Morgan High School. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No, that's the funnest part.
It is exciting. I love it. All right, roll call, please.
Chris Brown,
Aye.
Rob Cruz,
Aye.
Amy Grantham,
Aye.
Nancy Hopper,
Aye.
Katie Jess,
Aye.
Melissa Smith.
Aye. Action item D, Fort Morgan High School FFA Convention, June 6th through 8th, 2023 in Pueblo, Colorado. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Looks like fun. Roll call, please.
Chris Brown,
Aye.
Rob Cruz,
Aye.
Amy Grantham,
Aye.
Nancy Hopper,
Aye.
Katie Jess,
Aye.
Melissa Smith.
Aye. Action item E, donation to Fort Morgan High School girls wrestling team. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Thank you to whoever submitted that grant.
Yeah.
Grant request.
Phenomenal.
They deserve it.
Heck yeah. Roll call, please.
Chris Brown,
Aye.
Rob Cruz,
Aye.
Amy Grantham,
Aye.
Nancy Hopper,
Aye.
Katie Jess,
Aye.
Melissa Smith.
Aye. All right, advanced planning, Board of Education meetings in June are June 5th and 19th, 2023. The Fort Morgan High School Baccalaureate is May 19th, 2023. Fort Morgan High School Graduation Parade is May 20th. The Fort Morgan High School Graduation Ceremony is May 21st. Fort Morgan Middle School Continuation Ceremony is May 25th. Last day of school is May 25th. End of the year staff picnic is at Fort Morgan High School on the 26th of May, Friday. And board self-reflection questions. We have a slightly different one. Tonight that we're going to go over. I received this from Nancy, who got it from NSBA conference. And so this is the Norwalk Board of Education Civility Code. And so I just kind of wanted to borrow it from them and get your opinions on it. But we will do this one tonight as a reflection instead of the one that we've done before, which is the CASB one. So, kind of pledges that one, attend all regularly scheduled board meetings as far as possible, become informed concerning the issues to be considered. Do we feel like we did that tonight? That's kind of the same as being prepared that was on the CASB one, so I think so. Recognize that we should endeavor to make policy decisions only after full discussion at publicly held meetings. We did that tonight with the policies that we have. Clearly distinguish opinions from facts and render all decisions based on the available and verifiable facts and independent judgment. Refuse to surrender that judgment to individuals or special interest groups. We didn't have any present tonight, so I don't think that really mattered much. Respect all board members through words and actions. Demonstrate respect for the diverse views of all citizens in our society. That kind of goes along with one of those CASB ones that we had done before. When advocating for a belief or position, ensure that criticism of opposing viewpoints is expressed as criticism of a position, not a person. That's kind of a really good thing just in life general. Be a positive role model for public discourse, practice courtesy, politeness, and consideration. I feel like everyone did that very well with our guests that we had tonight. Ensure that all sides have a fair opportunity to present their respective positions. We've definitely done that in the past. Work with other board members to establish effective board policies and to delegate authority for the administration of the schools to the superintendent. That is you. Take no private action that will compromise the board and administration. And number 10, I don't think we need to pledge that tonight, maybe change it a little and we can do that. Remembering the first and greatest concerns must be the educational welfare of the students attending the Norwalk Public Schools. I have no idea where Norwalk even
I was
is.
gonna say, where's Norwalk?
No idea.
It's fixed up here.
So if we look at number 10 up there, the students attending the Morgan County School District RE3. So I think we can pledge that, right? We can do that.
Norwalk's on their own, sorry.
Yeah, Norwalk's got their own. So any questions about any of that? I kind of personally like the CASB ones better because there's less of them.
Those are good.
Yeah, they are good. I know that Rob and I have talked about having a retreat sometime this summer, and I'm going to send out an email to you guys to find out like when you're not going to be around, to start with that. And then maybe sometime in June, July, we can work on getting a retreat so we can talk more about board reflections and evaluations, and Rob has some things he wants to talk about too, so we'll get that established. All right, if there is no further business to come before this board, we are adjourned at 8:02 p.m.